never make media buying decisions on a single day view, because you're going to go insane. You're going to turn things off potentially way too early. The total number that we generated, probably like 1.5 to 1.7 million in revenue.
Snapchat is one of those platforms. I always want it to die, but then it never goes away.
I posted like the 4th video we ever did on TikTok organic, and it blew up, generated, I believe it was like 25,000 in one day, completely changed the direction of the company.
Welcome to Ecom Verified. Today, we are interviewing a very, very good friend of mine, Alex. He is the co-founder of PupRing.com. Pup Ring is a 7-figure personalized jewelry brand for pet owners. And today, we're going to be walking through his experience, all the challenges that he's come across, and some of his biggest strengths when growing his ecom brand. You guys know how we do it. We're looking for verified ecom brand founders that can walk you through exactly the steps that you need to take to grow your brand and to scale to the next level. Alex, my man, thank you so much for coming on today.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, man. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we go way back. We go back to like 16 or something like that?
It's definitely been some time. Not that far. I think it was 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2021, Capital Club, first ever mastermind for Capital Club. That was awesome.
Yeah.
And you've been in the game with Pup Ring since even before that, right?
Yes. So Pup Ring was started in March of 2020, kind of right around COVID time. Originally started as a project to make money, kind of as my background before that was a little bit in the drop shipping space.
Okay.
Started as a project to make money. And sadly, around that time, I had my dog pass away, and that really tied me to the project. So it definitely became and led into a passion project of mine.
And what kind of dog did you have?
I had a half Maltese, half Cocker Spaniel. His name was Tippy, and there's some Easter eggs actually on Pup Ring. If you go, there's a lot of like marketing material that has Tippy on there. So it's kind of like
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool. And so you dabbled in drop shipping before. Never really tried to start a brand. Everything was kind of just like, let's make some cash drop shipping.
Yeah, I think just like a lot of other people that are interested in the space, you've seen content out there of how drop shipping can make money, right? And I think 2017 is when I started dabbling in the space. A lot of trial and error. There was a period in 2018 where I did have some initial success with it, and I was like, I'm on top of the world. I figured it out. But really, it was just the beginning of a very long journey. That's a great journey that you always have to position yourself as a student in, because there's always more that you can learn and more that you can apply to the business you're trying to build and grow.
Yeah. And I guess one of the questions that I have, because I have this question always for every drop shipper that I've ever met, but like it's actually the opposite of the question, because drop shippers, I always ask, like, why don't you just create a brand off of something that's successful? For you, what made you decide to create a brand off of something successful rather than continuing and just experimenting for cash?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So I would say we took the branded route once we saw some initial success with the product, and once we saw there were people interested in what we had to sell. And from seeing other brands, how they were built, I was like, okay, there's more money to essentially be made. And this is obviously subjective, but there's more money to be made when you focus on one thing and truly learn who your customers are and are able to speak better to those customers and provide more value to those customers. And I believe that over time, when you specialize in one thing and really learn, that allows you to be better at it. And that was from the get-go kind of the direction that we wanted to take. And yeah, I believe that answers it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. That's why I always ask dropshippers. I was like, hey, if you have something that's winning, why don't you just build a brand around it, and then you have that forever,
Yeah.
And so that never really made sense to me on why people did that. how did your personal experiences shape kind of I mean, obviously with your dog Tippy, but besides that, what kind of shaped this business concept of doing personalized jewelry? Because one would think, I mean, obviously not in your case, but one would think like it's not the most scalable. Like there's a lot of labor that goes into it, and it's more like a ship to order type thing rather than I can just store millions of it in a warehouse and send it out. So what kind of shaped this business concept for you?
Yeah, so I would say there's not a lot of competition in the space, and for good reason. It is a more difficult product to sell. And that is one of the big things that allowed us to have some initial success with the brand we were building and kind of pave the road to being like, okay, this is something that we can grow long term. We saw very early on the first quarter four that we did that there's a lot of demand during gifting seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody who has a dog loves their dog to death, and they typically know other people that have dogs, and our product is a very gift centric product. So very early on, that kind of first quarter four, we were like, well, this is a great gifting product. There's not a lot of competition in the space. And it kind of paved the way for moving forward with the project, regardless of it being more difficult to sell during other parts of the year.
Yeah, very cool. That's very cool. And then just walk us through kind of like the initial stages of Pup Ring. Like what were some of the biggest challenges you faced? Because one of the things that I know is that you're pretty good at problem solving, especially with a brand and with a market that's constantly changing, and then having to adapt to that. And I've seen your journeys of ups and downs, so I know that problem solving is and challenges you face and that you've been able to solve those. So what are some of those?
Yeah, certainly. There's been a lot, and I'll kind of walk through kind of from the beginning some that we faced early on.
Sure.
One of the earliest, is the production of a personalized product takes time.
Mm-hmm.
And when we started the project, it took over a month to get the product from order to the customers.
Oh wow.
And that was a very early problem that, you're getting negative reviews. Your Facebook account is, well, your Facebook page is now at the risk of getting shut down because you have your feedback score going down. So these were some very early issues that we had, that we were like, okay, how do we fix those? How do we combat those? And that's another thing that I can tie back to when we were talking about branding. What led us to further pursue this was, okay, well, let's try to solve this. And we ended up very quickly going from overseas drop shipping to buying a laser engraving machine. My business partner, Parth, actually was fulfilling units from his house. So we bought this machine from Japan pretty early on, I would say year two that we were working on this. And
What does a machine like that go for?
you can get a starter one for like 4 grand.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, so it's not too crazy, but as the story progresses, as we go deeper, I'll explain why we ended up eventually moving back overseas. Um, yeah, but that's one of the early problems that we had was shipping times, and moving over to the U.S. for fulfillment allowed us to combat that. Another big problem we had very early on was managing finances. We didn't really do that. We had, I think there was order metrics and a few other of those apps that you could like look at and get a basic idea of how you were doing,
Yeah.
but we didn't take into consideration all of these other expenses that are absolutely crucial in determining, are you actually making money or are you losing money.
Right.
um, yeah, and that led to at the beginning of 2021, me and my business partner had to have a hard conversation of, are we going to actually continue this project? Is this something we want to continue to invest time and energy into? um, and that can tie into us identifying TikTok organic as a very viable source for generating traffic and revenue. And funny enough, right after that conversation that we had that evening, I posted like the fourth video we ever did on TikTok organic, and it blew up, generated, I believe it was like 25,000 in one day. with
Hmm.
maybe 60% net. And that kind of completely changed the direction of the company.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And just continuing on the trend of business development, how did you even determine that like the market wanted personalized pet jewelry, and what are kind of the steps that you took to even validate that idea with it?
Yeah, great question. I would say one was directly validated by the loss of my dog. My family was devastated. And this was a family dog. So my mom was devastated. I was
Hmm.
devastated. And the idea of having a piece of jewelry that could allow you to remember that pet in a memorial that wasn't something that you just like hang on the wall, but allows you to take them with you was huge. And the that really affirmed that there's other people out there who do lose their pets, who do have that emotional connection that they want to still cherish and take with them.
Yeah.
um, and as we continued to pursue the project, that became validated through reviews that came in, through the conversations we had with customers where they said, this'll, thank you so much for this piece of jewelry. It allows me to keep Daisy close to my heart. And I feel so much better about losing her. And that was, I guess, some very strong validation for the direction we were heading in.
Yeah, and it's very emotional too. So people then are like emotionally drawn rather than just like, oh, this product tastes good, you know? So that definitely makes people more attached to it and then more willing to recommend it to others also because of the
Exactly.
experience that they're and the emotions that they're feeling.
Exactly.
Um, and you didn't do it alone. You're a co-founder, right? So you have
Yes.
your other co-founder's name is Parth, correct?
Yes, Parth Kukreja is arguably the better half.
That's what we're talking about. That's what the next question is. How do you guys think that you actually complement each other? And like a lot, I mean, especially for like solo. I have a partner, so I'm a huge fan of having partners. But there's a lot of people that are solo dolo.
Hmm.
What are kind of the reasons that you decided to not do it solo, and the ways that you think it's actually benefited you?
Yeah, so we ended up partnering on this project right at the beginning when it was created. Parth was actually the one that came up with the name and the website. Original website design was all him. I saw a lot of potential in the project, and we ended up partnering on the project. How we complement each other is a fantastic question. I am very much a creative soul, if you will, and he is very much of just the logistics and the brain behind making difficult decisions and knowing, I want to say, knowing where to cut, whom to cut. He's in charge of all of our team, and he does a fantastic job in hiring the right people. I would say that our team right now is the main reason we've been able to progress in the way we have been. And a
Hmm.
lot of that, I would say all that credit goes to him. I focus and I have been focusing for the last couple of years on solely the marketing aspect of the company, identifying how to bring in top of funnel traffic, how to bring eyeballs to the website, how to build a culture, how to build everything, I guess, creative related, the logo, the
Yeah.
packaging, the boxes. Those were my vision and design, and he's been able to kind of keep everything moving and structured. And there's always one thing I like to always mention about partners is find somebody who can do things that you're not good at doing. And that was, I would say, a perfect fit, even though we clash all the time. It's like a relation. I mean, it is a relationship. You have a relationship with your partner and you are going to clash and have different opinions on things. But at the end of the day, you both want the best for the business. And if you can both play a role that complements the other person's role, you can move the business forward in a very efficient manner.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, if you not starting over, but like if you started another business, would you still look for someone to partner with, or would you still try, or would you try and do it yourself and like hire someone to handle the operations and stuff? Or why do you think that partnering with someone specifically is the answer?
I don't want to say it's always the answer.
Yeah.
I think it depends on circumstance. In the future, I can see myself partnering again. I can see myself also running a solo operation. At the end of the day, it boils down to when the project is being developed. If somebody else is involved, is that person truly going to allow for the project to accelerate much quicker than if I were to do it alone? And if the answer is no, I'll pursue it alone. If the answer is yes, then I will pursue it with a partner.
That
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. And then I wanted to jump in a little bit of the with the marketing and growth strategies. Haven't yet had a guest on that has had quite the same success that you have on TikTok. Um, TikTok, obviously, as you were mentioning, was one of the biggest sources of your revenue, and then even obviously your ability to be profitable. What were some of the initial strategies that you were using for TikTok, and how have they kind of transformed as the platform has transformed?
Great question. So initially, what works and what still works to this day is seeing what is working for other people and identifying how to do it better yourself. It's one of the most slept on things, but it can be very effective by just spending a couple minutes every single day, spend 20, 30 minutes scrolling and looking at what are other businesses doing, specifically on TikTok, small businesses. What are they doing to generate traffic to their page? What kind of content are they creating? And then getting inspiration from that and attempting to recreate that content in your own way that's going to speak to your demographic. That is what got us the first viral video. That is what got us the second viral video, the third viral video, the fourth viral video. I want to argue that most of the content that has gone viral for us was inspired in some way, shape, or form by something that already went viral. And if you find things that already go viral and you identify how to make them better, there is a percentage of success rate that you can have with doing so.
That's awesome. And so you guys still to this day utilize that way of kind of getting viral videos and marketing yourself on TikTok organically.
Yes, and that ties also into paid. When you're creating ads, identifying what ads are working for the big brands, getting inspiration from the people that have the biggest creative teams behind them. It's a fantastic way to be like, okay, well, let's try something similar to this. And let's see if we can replicate that on, an ad level or on an organic level. Yeah. And it translates, I think, to a lot of aspects in business, landing pages. If you get inspiration from somebody's landing page, it's like, okay, they're approaching it in XYZ fashion. We can potentially try that and see if it can work for us in our own way.
Mm-hmm. Do you have you calculated how much you've made from TikTok organic or how many sales you've done from it? Or is there a way even to do that?
Yeah, there's definitely a way. I can tell you 2021 was easily over 800,000 from TikTok organic that we were able to generate. And I want to say this is between TikTok organic and Instagram Reels. Reels played a really big role right after, TikTok came out with their short form.
Yeah.
Instagram came out with a competitor for that short form. Just how initially TikTok was boosting performance of that short form. Instagram did the same thing. So there was a period of time where going viral on TikTok was really easy. And then there was another period of time where going viral on Reels was really easy. And I want to
Yeah.
argue that to this day, Reels are a great way to generate traffic. Yeah,
And so you are still going hard on Reels and TikTok, both of them?
we are still going. I guess the definition of hard is we dial down, to be completely honest. We dial down a lot. We are now very much more focused on paid media acquisition. But
Okay.
we do still have organic channels that we run.
Okay, very cool. And so you said 2018. Do you know what like the total number would be on TikTok? Because that'd be crazy to know.
Yeah, so the total number that we generated, and this is going to be definitely more of a ballpark, but it's going to be in probably like 1.5 to 1.7 million in revenue.
That's wild, just from posting videos on TikTok.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think about. Um, that's absolutely wild. Just free money from TikTok. And what are some of the examples of that content that has performed well for you? Why did it resonate with your audience, or why do you think it resonated with your audience? And then what's some of your favorite ones right now?
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Let's do it. So I would say one that worked very well was finding funny customer conversations that you get in customer support and
Uh-huh.
creating videos about those conversations. So we've had in 2021, 2022, a lot of customers that would buy the product, and this was again around COVID time. Would ask really stupid questions. One that I can pull off the top of my head was like, "Am I going to get COVID from your product or from the ring?" Or like, "Your
The
product gave
answer is
me
yes.
COVID." Yeah. So like, I would create videos, and you can feel free to scroll through our older videos on TikTok, and you'll find some of these where it's like really weird customer questions that are we identified were fantastic as hooks. Because
Yeah.
if you mention that and you have now the TikTok text to speech, read that out loud, it hooks people. And what we would do, the strategy behind it was identifying these conversations, running through those conversations, and having B-roll in the background of us creating the product. So it would showcase the creation of the product, the laser engraving of it, taking it, putting in the machine, engraving it, showcasing the final product or the final ring. And then the conversation would be laid over on top of it. And then I would add like a screenshot of the conversation as like proof at the end, and then
Uh-huh.
cut it right after that. And that format, I can say that format generated easily a couple $100,000, like just that format from short form organic content.
And that's what you're doing back in the day. What's some of the stuff that you're doing now that you're saying it's working? Some of your ideas.
Yeah. So right now, what works really well is content that is from the creator perspective. So
Okay.
when you take a look at most videos that go viral right now are videos that don't seem like ads. And it's
Mm-hmm.
a lot more difficult to inject an ad into those, but creating content that's like POV. Let me actually see if I can like pull up an example that could be directly relevant here. Um, but a good example could be so one that we did just for a couple of months ago, and it got 500,000 views organically. It says POV: the dog you had since you were 8 just passed away, and your boyfriend did this, and it shows like some teary eyes, like the emoji.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, the hook of that is a girl that's like crying. I don't know if this is even gonna show up, but
I don't see it on my side, but it might in the
yeah.
recording.
Anyways, it's a girl that's like, showing emotion. It's the text that's from the creator perspective, and it's emotional music that ties it together, and it shows like the product at the end. So that
Yeah.
type of content that seems very genuine and organic from a creator's perspective is something that's working really well organically right now, as well as with paid media. You put ad spend behind those, they do perform. At least for us, they do perform.
That's awesome. And then as far as like TikTok Shop, have you delve into that at all? I mean, I'm pretty. I'm. Would that be hard to do in the personalized world or no?
Yeah, so that is actually a pretty big challenge in the personalized world because they have a 2-day mandatory shipping requirement. So
Oh wow.
to be able to sell on TikTok Shop, when an order comes in, you have to ship it out within 2 days or generate the shipping label within 2 days. There are ways to still sell personalized products on TikTok Shop. There are people doing it. There's people selling our products on TikTok Shop. We just have not expanded our systems to be able to adapt to it just yet, but we are looking into it and working on that as a new sales channel.
Yeah, because that's where a lot of that creator content even comes in, right? Where you get some of that more genuine stuff. So
Yes,
that'll be huge, I think.
I completely agree with
Um,
that.
Beyond TikTok organic, and TikTok Shop. What are some other channels that have been good for you guys that you've been able to kind of more recently that you've been kind of able to master?
Yeah, fantastic. So one that we've been working on very recently is Instagram micro influencer seeding. That's to explain and elaborate a little bit on what that is. That's identifying content creators that are not huge content creators that have followers anywhere from 5 to maybe 30,000 followers on Instagram, and approaching them and saying, "Hey, we love your dog Daisy. We love your, we love your dog. We make jewelry with your dog's face on it. We would love to send you some product with your genuine opinion about this publicly." And it's an exchange, cost of goods exchange in exchange for content, um, that we've seen great success with. And we started to recently scale this more. We're able to get anywhere from 5 to 10 creators to create actively content per week, which adds an additional, 5 to 10 pieces plus of UGC coming in. This can now be used inside of ads. This can be used to repost places. It's great for social proof. And one of the coolest things that I love about it is that even if one person converts from this person making that video,
Yeah.
it's a profitable acquisition. So it boils down now to a numbers game of how many people can we have creating this type of content. And that allows for an additional channel of scale to come in.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that at dinner when we were in Miami, and it's pretty fascinating. So how do you actually go about finding these creators? Is it just like purely like cold and trying to search around the whole world looking for people, or is there a source that you go to?
Yeah, this is there's a few methods that I can lay out that are great for doing this. One of the best ones is finding creators that are inside of your niche, obviously, and then going and looking at who are they following.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, they're going to be following other creators that are creating content, trying to grow, that are in the same niche. So just going down that following list, especially in categories and niches that are super passionate. Dogs are a great example. Beauty
Right.
is another great example. You're going to find a lot of creators that they follow that could be a great fit for the same thing. And then going into those creators, looking through their following, who are they following, and going down that list. And now you have thousands of potential creators that you can reach out to. Now, the outreach for this is manual. We're not using any automation tools for this. So we simply have a VA that is doing this, reaching out and messaging these creators, requesting an exchange for a product, in exchange for a public review of content.
That's awesome. And then when you're going through this process, how often do you get people that are like, "Oh, you have to pay me for it"?
Often, right? So you're gonna you'll
That's crazy.
definitely, yeah. I mean, there's gonna be a good split of maybe 30% of people are 100% down, and then there's like a good 30% of people that are wanting you to pay, and then there's like 40% of people that just kind of don't get back to you or are not interested. So it's,
That's funny.
yeah, there's definitely a percentage that you can work with. And my advice would be, if somebody's requesting you to pay them, make sure they're actually worth you paying for them. Go through their comments, go through the posts that they post, go through the comments, see, are they engaging, are they having a lot of their followers engage with the comments? Do they have consistent views on their reels? If they have just 100 views on one reel and then 1,000 on the other and then 500 on the other, they're not particularly going to be worth paying $200, right?
Right.
But if they have 15,000 on one, 30,000 on the other, and they're consistently averaging in the, tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands on a per view basis. If they have comments that are super engaged, 30 plus comments per post is kind of what I look for. Like those are great. Those are great. I want to say characteristics, but those are great, like identifying factors of, okay, this person might actually be able to generate me some revenue if I pay them, for a post.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's good stuff. The other thing, have you ever tried like any of that like ambassador stuff where you know how it like sends it like affiliate link to people that have already purchased your product, asking if they want to be affiliates and that kind of stuff has because that's not the same concept, but it's similar in some way. Have you tried that or has that been successful at all for you?
Yeah, so when we approach our seeding, we also do offer them to become an affiliate with us. And if they share the code with their followers and the followers use the code, they get a percentage of that. So through that route, we have approached it. We haven't actually approached it with previous customers. I know that that's a very viable channel that we should potentially try. It's just not something we have focused on yet.
Yeah, I was just curious because that's kind of a similar strategy, but going after the masses rather than, well, actually going after people that already bought your products. You don't have to send them anything free, anyways.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
All right. Beyond that, one of the things that you mentioned is your paid strategies, not only through TikTok but also through Meta as well. I don't know if you want to address those together or separately, but what are kind of the key takeaways that you have from both TikTok and Meta right now?
Yeah, so right now, what's working really well, as I mentioned, content wise, is content that feels very genuine from the creator's perspective. So
Mm-hmm.
that's in terms of content. Now, in terms of testing strategies, etc., the biggest thing is testing this content that you create. Over the last couple of years, we've learned that we need to truly become a content machine, and it started with us kind of just throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks. And now it's kind of turned to, okay, let's strategically approach how can we create, as much content on a weekly basis and test that content. Because
Mm-hmm.
only a small percentage of the content you test is actually going to perform. So we've identified anywhere from 5 to 10% of the content we test performs, which now boils down to a numbers game of testing. So I would say that our primary campaigns that we run are going to actually be testing campaigns where we have very simple structures in approaching testing. I like to test using an ABO structure. So a campaign that's for, the month of July, for example. Inside of that campaign, simple ABO ad sets that are starting anywhere from $20 to $40. It doesn't have to be a crazy budget. And inside of those, three variations of the content or concept that you're wanting to test. I've
Mm-hmm.
found that doing that with copy that has proven to work before is a very easy way to identify content that is going to work. Once content works, that can then be moved to scaling in different ways, and we can dive into that more if you'd like. Now, in terms of TikTok, same thing, right? So we've kind of condensed a lot of our media buying to testing content, and then once we identify content that's working, moving that and scaling that.
So when you're doing a lot of that testing, what are the audiences that you're going after? Are you just doing broad, like everyone's saying you got to do right now, or are you doing some retargeting, lookalike audiences? What's your approach there?
Cool. Yeah. So my approach is going to, well, right now our approach is primarily broad, primarily Advantage Plus targeting as well, also lookalike audiences as well. That's going to be my approach and my recommendation for anybody who has a seasoned pixel and data already, yeah, data already on their pixel. What my approach would be to anybody who is just starting off and doesn't have that data on their pixel would be more consolidated with interests. It would be identifying what are the top interests that are going to hit your target demographic and then stacking those interests inside of your testing campaigns. That's
Mm-hmm.
going to ensure that you are hitting the direction of where your audience is. And it's going to be ensuring that those are going to be the people going to your website. And that's going to kind of start getting your pixel to learn. And
Yeah.
yeah, and as it learns, then you can move over to more broad strategies, Advantage Plus, build more lookalike audiences off of that, and kind of keep going in that direction. That is what works best, right? There's a reason everyone's saying broad. It's because it does work the best. But at the end of the day, if you're just starting and your pixel has no data, I definitely wouldn't go broad.
Because you'll probably end up spending more to get it to the right direction than you would if you spent towards interests.
Exactly. And there's a
Yeah.
great way to jumpstart a fresh pixel is going to be to run that exact strategy I mentioned of interest stacking for your testing. And as soon as you have a video that gets, let's just say you find a winning video and you spend a couple $1,000s on that winning video, it generates, let's say, 100,000 views. A very valid next approach from there would be to create a custom audience based off of those video views. So you can create a custom audience based off those video views. Let's just say 95% video view watch through. So what that means is you create a custom audience that is breaking down only people that have watched 95% of that video. You can take that custom audience now, make a lookalike audience based off of that, and now you have a lookalike audience that's focused on, okay, the people that are actually interested in your product and what you have to offer. And that's a great strategy that I like to recommend right after you kind of start running and sending some traffic to your site, gets you into lookalikes. And that's actually something we still use to this day, those lookalike audiences to scale. And it works still very, very well to this day for us.
That's awesome. Very cool. And with the whole, do you take videos that go viral on TikTok and try to use those as like your creatives, or do you even do like the Spark ads and stuff?
Yes, both of those we do. They are fantastic ways to double down on performance of an organic creative that has worked. If
Mm-hmm.
something works organically, and especially if something converts organically, if you have an organic video you post and it drives you revenue, it's a no brainer to put ad spend behind it. It will work. Like
Yeah.
it has historically worked every time we've done it. Yeah.
Very cool. And then for the testing, what are kind of some of the metrics that you're looking for to decide whether or not this is an ad that we should scale? And then when you're scaling it, what kind of metrics are you looking for?
Yeah, so the biggest metric is obviously, is it making you money? And the way you determine that is through what you're paying for that acquisition. And there's different metrics you can look here. You can look at the cost per acquisition. You can look at the return on ad spend. If you know what your target return on ad spend is, you can focus on that metric when making decisions. I typically look at the cost per acquisition and I'm like, is this in the ballpark of driving customers to my website at a decently profitable cost per acquisition? And
Mm-hmm.
here's another thing I like about branding. As you grow a brand, your repeat customer rate grows. You build that reputation, and over a couple of years, you have more and more repeat customers that are organic. What does that allow you to do? That allows me to now spend more on ads than potentially some new competitor that is just joining the space. So
Yeah.
I have more wiggle room when I approach my media buying. I know that anything that's under $40 cost per acquisition for me is ideal. If I can acquire a customer for like $30, I'm happy with that. And that's really what I would say you want to identify in whatever brand somebody is creating. You want to identify what are the metrics that you are trying to hit. What is a good acquisition cost for you that's making you money, and then go based off of that. Hear me out, on a blended level. Never make media buying decisions on a single day view, because you're going to go insane. You're going to turn things off potentially way too early. Your ads need to learn. And when you start looking at them on a 7+ blended view level, like 7-day plus, you're going to be like, okay, in the last 7 days, is this heading in the right direction? Day one, typically ads that you test won't perform most of the time. Day two, they might get a couple purchases that maybe it might be profitable, might not be profitable. Day three, it might kill it, right? You might be doing great day three. Day four, maybe no purchases, right? Like you go to day seven, now you take a look at a blended level. Okay, it's acceptable, so you leave it on, right? Versus what a lot of the mistakes I see media buyers making these days is just judging on day one, launching something and being like, why is it not getting me sales? I spent $50, it's not getting me sales. Well, you
Yeah.
only spent $50 on it. For your ad to exit the learning phase, it used to be, I think they just recently changed it, but it used to be you needed to get 50 conversions in a week, right? So you have to spend for your ads to be able to learn. And if you don't do that, and if you don't give them that time, they're not going to learn. And you're just
Yes.
going to, be driving yourself insane. I'm not sure if that directly answered the question or not, but yeah, that's some thoughts that I had there.
Yeah, of course. And on the creative side of things, are you guys testing anything else besides like short form? Are you doing like carousels, catalog, still images, anything like that?
Yes, yes, we do a lot of static image testing. We do also play around with catalogs and carousels. Those are very important for the middle of funnel and bottom of funnel. To tie back into how we target and who we target, we love to target people that have engaged with us, that have heard about the brand, that have visited the website, that have added to cart but not maybe purchased. These are great audiences to target as they're warm. They already heard about your brand, about your product. They've already visited your website. And if you approach them with letting them know about an offer, for example, it can work really well in converting those people. One of our best static ad creatives that we've ever ran was a very simple image that shows the product, and it's like imagine a collage where you have one, two, three, four squares. Three of the squares are showing the product really close, showing the details, making it very
Hmm.
clear what it is, and then the fourth square says, Black Friday sale 50% off ending tonight, right? Or whatever offer you're trying to push. And that's a very simple yet extremely effective ad that ad has generated six figures for us in revenue.
Hmm.
And it worked really well at probably like a 20 some dollar cost per acquisition.
Very cool. That's awesome. And so, straying away a little bit from the marketing channels, one of the things that you mentioned is that you used to supply overseas and then you did it in house and then now you're back to overseas. How did that end up happening?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as I mentioned, we did a lot of different changes in our fulfillment. So started overseas, brought it to the U.S. Immediately when we brought it to the U.S., we tried to find somebody in the U.S. who could fulfill for us. That was very short lived, as that was very expensive to do. So we bought a machine. We tried to do it ourselves. We did it ourselves for multiple years until we hit two critical um, bottlenecks, if you will. These two critical bottlenecks were one, volume, and two, quality. Simply put, a $4,000 laser engraving machine is only going to be able to get you a certain level of quality that that you can produce. The type of laser engraving that it did was a dot engraving, where it would like blast away with dots the metal, right? And if you put that under a microscope, you can see these dots that it's blasting away. This
Yeah.
had issues, especially with quality. Our products would fade, wash out. There would just be a lot of issues with the actual engraving side of things. That was one reason we were like, okay, we need to figure this out, problem solve it. Another really big one was scale and volume. We could, with one laser engraving machine, we were fulfilling hundreds of orders a day, which is pretty crazy that we got to that level of manually engraving 400 or 500 orders every single day and
That's wild.
fulfilling them out of a garage that we had. So that was already a pretty big, milestone. But at the same time, we were, 2022 quarter four, and we're getting 1,000 orders a day. We're getting 1,500 orders a day. And it's like, okay, we're really starting to get backlogged here. We need to either identify how to increase quality with a different machine, buy said different machine, and build those systems in house, or we need to identify how we can fulfill at a higher scale, at a higher quality somewhere else. And
Yeah.
bringing things back overseas was the logical decision, as we had the opportunity to work with a factory there that was able to use much more expensive machines that could do a better job and they had a laser engraving technology that's patented for some proprietary technology they're using for their product that allowed for a significantly higher quality of product. So if you actually look on the market right now, we will actually be able to produce a much deeper and more realistic engraving than pretty much any competitor that I know that we have in the space. And we seal it to now prevent any fading. So the kind of the process and our approach of creating the product elevated, and I believe it was a good change, as we now went back to a model where we do not have to particularly hold a lot of inventory. We still do hold inventory that needs to be bought up front for them to hold overseas, but we have the ability to hold a lot less to fulfill a lot more at a higher quality.
Yeah.
So this last quarter 4, that allowed us to scale, to be selling at, $60,000-$70,000 a day in revenue, which was pretty nuts. And we were able to fulfill all those orders on time and provide a much higher experience for our customers.
That's awesome. Very cool. And one of the things that you guys depend on obviously is not only like customer loyalty, but also like the satisfaction, because it's a very emotional product that you're hoping that they're going to recommend to your friends. So I know you bank a lot on that type of strategy. What are the things that you kind of have in place to not only make sure that their customers are actually satisfied and they like what they're getting, but also building that loyalty and kind of that cult following that you kind of have going on?
Yeah, great. So, excuse me. One of the biggest things for us is our products still do take a decent amount of time to create.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the challenges we faced for the longest time, where people are like, where's my order? It's been 7, 8 days, 9 days, 10 days. They haven't received their product yet.
Yeah.
And that's something that we spent a
People
lot
are
of
the
time.
worst. They're so
Yeah.
needy.
Yeah. And it's important though, because if you don't solve those objections and you don't like tackle those things head on, you have so many issues that follow. We had thousands of emails coming in daily of people upset that they don't know where their order is, or that it's not there yet. We had all of our review, every place you could put a review on, spammed by Karens screaming, "My order didn't come in yet," all that stuff.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, we have to figure this out. So how we figured it out was to be over communicative. I don't know if that's a word, but to
We
over
can make it one.
communicate. We can make it, yeah. Over communicate with your customers. Update them on every single possible second of the journey, and they will thank you for it. So how we approached this was fairly simple. We set up email flows as well as SMS flows that updated the customer throughout every single portion of the processing time. To give additional context, our orders take at least 5 to 6 days to actually, maybe a little bit less, to process and exit the warehouse. But during
Yeah.
that period, we want to fully inform the customer of what's going on. Day 1, we
Yeah.
say, hey, thank you so much for placing an order, right? Day 2, we say, hey, your order is now being designed. We're taking the image you uploaded, and we are actually having a designer work on this right now. Day 3, we say, hey, your design is now going over to Gonzalo, Miguel, whoever. Like, we put a name in there, and he's engraving it. He's personalizing it on a piece of metal for you. This is going to take a
Yeah.
couple of days. Day 6, 7, we say, hey, your order is now finished. We finished perfecting it. It's in our inspection phase. It's going to be shipped shortly. A day after that, or a couple of days after
Yeah.
that, this is now being waiting. We're waiting for USPS pickup. Your order is good to go. It's packaged, waiting for USPS pickup. And then USPS picks it up. They get their tracking number. They can track it. It's shipped to their house within 4 to 5 days. So it's like, just being over communicative has proven to completely bring down those customer support tickets, allow for a customer who is very happy that their order is on the way. And also, another thing that's huge here is setting the expectations right. So many people in the space I see setting wrong expectations. They promise something but then don't deliver on it.
Yeah.
Let people know ahead of time what they should expect. If you go to our website, you're going to see on any given product, you're going to see a timeline right underneath the add to cart button. You can't miss it. It says order today to arrive by July 15th to July 22nd. That is a minimum of 10 days that we are setting the expectation all the way to the 22nd. And we give a window just so they are fully aware. And this is something that I want to argue has been huge in allowing for higher customer satisfaction and an overall better business model that functions much better.
Yeah, as far as like your conversion rate, have you seen it hit by that at all?
I don't believe that that has actually hurt our conversion rate. I want to say that's actually improved our conversion rate. Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, because a lot of people think like, oh, if I say that it's going to come out so far, but I mean, it's different than saying like, hey, your product's going to arrive then, than like showing a timeline of like, hey, this is the full process of what you're ordering and why it's going to take that long, rather than just like your order will ship out in 15 days, and you're like, well, why the heck does it take so long? Just ship it to me
exactly.
now.
Exactly.
So it's much more transparent in that side of things. And then on the back end, obviously being able to facilitate those happy customers once they've received their orders. What are you kind of doing to get those reviews or make sure that they're coming back to you?
Yeah. So every time that somebody places an order, 2 weeks after that, we send them an email and we say, hey, we hope you loved your order. We would love to hear your feedback publicly. And we send them a link to leave a review. So that is one of the ways we gather reviews, is just emailing customers a couple of weeks after they've made their purchase to get their public feedback about the product. Um, Additionally, how we get these people to come back for more is very simply through the gifting angle that we rotate pretty much endlessly year to year during every single gifting period possible. Typically, if you're a dog owner, you know other dog owners. And during gifting seasons, this is a fantastic gift. So we much encourage all of our existing customers to buy from us again, to gift our products to other people. And we emphasize this by creating a culture around it with the content we create. We love to create and source a lot of gifting content that shows the product being gifted, that shows reactions of people emotionally that we can showcase. We can say then, hey, this is what you can do to your dad by giving him this keychain for Father's Day. And then we show the dad that's super happy about it, and emphasize the emotions there. And by doing so during each gifting opportunity, we can encourage all of our previous customers who already bought for themselves to buy for somebody they know, to buy for the new neighbor that they just met who has a cat.
Mm-hmm.
That's the angle that we've identified works really, really well for being able to get repeat purchasers back into the door. And that's one, apart from that, creating new jewelry styles, doing new product drops. We just released today, actually, two new products. We released a blanket and we released a beach towel, both that are personalized with the pet's face on them. Just releasing things back to the ecosystem of people that have bought from you before, were satisfied from what you were providing before, and would love
Mm-hmm.
to buy, an addition to their collection, to their Pup Ring collection. We
Yeah.
released, like, one of our strategies that we use is identifying products that work well, like our pet face necklace works really well. What did we do? We released earrings that are pet face earrings. We released a keychain that's a pet face keychain. And just releasing things that are directly in line with what your customers want is a great way to get them, back in the door.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna mention, that because obviously Pup Ring started with just rings. What kind of went into the product development side of things? Of like, was it just your own creativity, or people coming back to you and saying like, "Man, we really want a necklace," or "We really want this also," or what kind of attributed to a lot of those ideas?
Yeah, there's I would say kind of all of the above, right? When you're approaching new product, obviously we all have our biases of what we think looks good and what we think looks cool, but at the end of the day, it doesn't always work. I can,
Right.
there's been so many products that we released and tested that I thought were absolutely going to kill it, but then they flopped, completely flopped, one, two sales maybe, and that's that. At the end of the day, having a diverse approach to it and testing things that you believe will do good, but at the same time taking those ideas that you have and first feeding them behind your target demographic, asking them, hey, if we release this, would you buy it? What do you want to see, right? Going to your customers and asking them for what they want to see has worked the best. And then going through the internet and looking at what is currently trending, what is going viral right now, and releasing things that are in line with that to your customers is another very valid strategy. To tie into that, actually, we did these. So I'm sure you guys have all seen like these pearl necklaces that have been going pretty viral everywhere. We started to take these pearl necklaces, and what we did is we put a paw print on them. So we took like a little, I don't even know if that will load up, but you should be able to see it on the website if you go there. We took this concept that has worked well for a lot of other brands, and we put a pet theme to it. We took those name necklaces. I'm sure you guys have all seen like those name necklaces that you have a name on.
Yeah.
And we put paw prints on the sides of them. So just testing things out like that has actually worked a lot better. And while they're still nowhere near our hero products in terms of the demand, they still act as a great cushion for additional revenue coming in from people who have already bought your products.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it kind of gives them the opportunity to test other things and then recommend those things as well.
Exactly.
Very cool. As far as kind of like one of the biggest things that I always have in my mind is like the logistics, because now you have so many different products. They're all personalized. They all have different designs. Like how often does that get mixed up?
All the time. That's a huge topic that, I'm lucky to not even be I'm hardly involved in it these days, which I'm really
Uh-huh.
happy about. But we have an amazing team that manages it. It gets complicated, right? I can tell you from when we used to fulfill everything in house, it was extremely complicated. When an order came in, that sheet gets processed the next day. That sheet gets printed, it goes into an Excel file that goes onto the computer, which then is tied to the laser engraving machine, and we process the orders. What happens now when a customer says, hey, I want to cancel my order? Well, we already engraved it. We already used up perfectly
Oh,
good cost of goods. So there's a lot of challenges that come in it. I would say some advice that I can pass down from this is there's going to be a lot of trial and error that's needed for it. And you need to simply identify how are you approaching it right now? What are the inefficiencies? And you want to try to solve those inefficiencies. We have two full-time leaders on our team that are just focused on ensuring that everything is operating smoothly. And under those two leaders, there's a chain of operations that is being communicated with all of the customer support, with all of the orders that are happening overseas. And whenever there is something that needs to get changed, there's a systems that are put into place, and you need to build these systems, especially if you're dealing with products that are going to be more complicated to fulfill. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of trial and error, but it's very doable. And
hmm
yeah, it's very doable for sure. You don't want to be the one actually doing it for very long, or you're going to potentially go insane.
actually go insane.
Yeah.
Do you guys use any tools or kind of technology like things like Triple Whale or something like, or different apps? What are kind of your favorite things for those those kind of hacks that you can kind of find?
Yeah. So I love one called Lifetimely. It's a very basic, um, just kind of basic glance at how are we doing? What does the daily AOV look like? Are we profitable? Are we not profitable? How much are we spending on ads? How much are we having in return customers? There's a lot of great metrics you can break down on Lifetimely. That's one that I always recommend from just a holistic perspective on your business. Apart from that, we're using the typical stack for most D2C brands are using for Klaviyo for email. We use Postscript for SMS. We recently moved over to, I believe, Junip for our customer reviews. Previous to that, we used Judge.me. One that's actually really slept on, that I'm gonna throw at you guys, that's going to save a lot of headaches. Get something called an address validator. We're using one called Address Validator Plus, and that is going to save you so many headaches, because you can't. I can't even begin to understand how people constantly type in the wrong address, and if you ship to the wrong address, you lose money, right?
Yeah.
So that's one that I would definitely say is important. Apart
And what
from
does it
that,
do? So it
oh
just
yeah,
like verifies if it's a real address, and then if it isn't, it like
it
messages them and
suggests
says,
one. It suggests the right address to them. So they could be like, hey, you typed this. Did you actually mean this? Because this isn't a real
"Oh, so
address.
it's not an after situation, it's during. It does it. It suggests it to them."
Exactly. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So that was a big one for us. A few others that I'm just keep chucking them at you. One click upsell. Upsells are super important for increasing your AOV, and yeah, I mean, it's great. One click upsell is one we use. Slide cart, that's another really great one. If you go to our website, add something to cart, you're going to see the cart slides out. And what that also allows you to do is have in cart upsells. It allows you to gamify your cart. One huge thing that we do is we have slide cart was absolutely huge for the last couple of years. It allows for you to add upsells inside of your cart page, and it allows you to gamify your cart page. What I mean by gamify is you can have we have a free shipping at a certain average order value. So we tell our customers, hey, you're $5 away from free shipping, right? Like you can get there by just adding another $5 to your cart, and then you don't have to pay for shipping. And it works really, really well in getting people actually getting your entire average order value closer to that threshold. We have
Oh,
our free shipping.
I fall for those all the time. I'm just
Dude,
like, what? I can get free ship. Even if it's like you get faster shipping, I'll be like, I can get faster shipping. What? I don't even care what it is. I'm gonna go find something to buy.
yeah, and it works very
Works on
well.
me every
We
time.
have we have our free shipping threshold set at $65. Our AOV is $65. So it really gets your AOV kind of to where you want it to be, and that's a fantastic app that I always recommend as well. Let's see, gem pages. That's super important for building different landing pages, building transition pages. That's a whole other thing we can get into later. But it's a page builder, and it's great for doing more things than your Shopify theme can do. Simply put,
Yeah.
if you're running Google Ads, having some type of Google Shopping feed that's pushing your feed from your store to the merchant center, that's important. Any type of, if you're doing affiliate marketing, we use GoAff Pro, GoAffPro. That's for, affiliate marketing. There's a bunch of other ones as well. If you're using Etsy, you want to have some type of Etsy integration, so you're not going insane managing orders from two areas.
Oh yeah, I can imagine that you guys probably get some good stuff from Etsy since it's personalized.
Yeah, we do have a percentage coming in from Etsy. Yeah, I think that's kind of the top. I was just going through here. That's kind of the top list, I would say, of what we primarily use. Oh, one that I want to mention that I did not mention yet: Ship Scout. So this allows you to A/B test your shipping prices. Absolutely huge in identifying if increasing your shipping is going to do something good for your business or something bad for your business.
Yeah.
If providing free shipping compared to paid shipping, is the conversion rate increase from the free shipping going to be big enough, or is the decrease in conversion rate from the paid shipping going to allow for such a higher AOV and revenue per customer that it's worth it? Like, which one's more worth it?
Yeah.
So that's a huge app that we use all the time, and we've kind of identified a shipping price that works well for us now, so we're sticking with it. But certainly a good one to problem solve with.
And then, so you mentioned Etsy is one of the other platforms that you guys use. We've talked about Meta, we've talked about TikTok, um, Etsy, Google. Are you doing Google ads or any kind of, have you read any SEO or Google ads, anything like that?
Yeah, so we do have Google Ads that are running. It's a channel that we are putting more attention to now. But I would say really the basic stuff, branded search. When somebody searches anything to do with Pup Ring, we obviously want to be at the top if we're not already. So that's a very simple search campaign, branded search campaign that we have going on all the time pretty much. And then Performance Max, PMax, as a lot of people know it, that's another great way to drive top of funnel revenue, as well as people that have heard about your brand are visiting now a different blog, and you have your ad, one of your ads or your products that are popping up on the side. Another great way to just get people back to the site and purchase. Actually, Google, I would argue, is one of our most profitable channels. Yeah, it works really, really well. And we need to continue to optimize it. We definitely don't put enough attention there.
Have you worked with organic at all and done any SEO yourself or worked with someone for that?
We've done some blogs. So we've been creating some blogs trying to identify some keywords, but this was, I would say, years ago. We haven't recently done many SEO efforts, but we do need to. That is something we've been sleeping on as well.
Is there anything else in the that side of things that you want to discuss or inside of the like the marketing and growth tactics and stuff? Because after that, I'm planning on going to like personal stuff and then future plans, and that's about it.
I mean, I can talk a little bit about Snapchat. I mean, this is a very new channel that we're starting to play around with. But we are seeing some great success in just taking content that's working on Facebook and TikTok and, testing it on Snapchat as well. That is working well for us right now as well. So that's another channel.
Snapchat is one of those platforms that like never dies. It like never thrives, but it never dies. Like I always want it to die, but then it never goes away. Are you guys using Snapchat at all for anything?
We are, yes. So we have been playing around on Snapchat on and off for the last couple of years.
Wow.
And we've identified that it doesn't work great at scale, at least for us, at least right now. Maybe one day we'll crack that scale aspect. But at spending a couple $100s a day, it does bring a great return when utilizing creatives that are native to the short form feel. And to elaborate a little bit on that is everything that's working on TikTok and then translating that to what's working or translating that to testing on Snapchat. A lot of the same styles of content, that TikTok style text, what we were talking about before, creator perspective stuff, directly resonates to people on Snapchat and has been bringing us some profitable acquisitions on a consistent basis.
That's crazy. That platform, I feel like it just needs to die. I mean, who uses it anymore? I don't even know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
all that's fantastic, man. I really appreciate all the insight. Just to kind of wrap it all up, based on all of that kind of stuff that you've talked about in the past year or so, using all those methods, solving all those problems. What's been the revenue level that you guys have been able to accomplish? Your AOV, what's your average there? Any kind of the numbers that you'd want to share with people?
Yeah, for sure. So in the last 365 days, we did just over 3.5 million in revenue, with an average order value just under $50 has been last 365. And what's pretty cool is we did a recent price update
Yeah.
at the kind of beginning of this year, which bumped our AOV to $65. So we're right now
Nice.
riding at a much higher AOV, a much better position for this quarter four. Tying back to some of the growth, we've been seeing about a 2x growth year over year. The previous 365 days was about 1.5 million. This 365 was 3.5. So kind of on
Very cool.
track for that. And this year we're also on track for another 2x growth from there. Our current conversion rate or 365 conversion rate is about a 3%. That's a 16% increase from the previous. And yeah, I mean, we're definitely excited to continue to grow and learn, and very excited for this quarter four. About just for context, about 63% of our yearly revenue comes from quarter four, so it's a very large sales period for us.
Very cool. That's awesome. And then plans for the future. Where are you guys going? You exploring new markets, new opportunities, new products? Where how is the development going for the brand?
Yeah, so everything is right now positioned to what do our customers want? How can we create new products that they are going to want and enjoy, as well as expanding to markets and places that we haven't tapped into yet. And there's plenty of those. To name a few, different countries are huge. We are right now creating a Spanish version of our website, a French version of our website, and a German version of our website. Doing the same with our ads, and we're going to essentially be tapping into those native markets to attempt to multiply some of our growth.
That's awesome. That's super cool. And how do you see the pet jewelry industry kind of evolving? And what steps are you taking to kind of stay ahead of that?
Yeah, so in terms of evolving and where I believe it's going, people are always going to have pets, and pets are sadly always going to, live and die. So I believe that the market is going to always have a demand for sentimental jewelry that allows people to memorialize these pets,
Hmm.
as well as there's always going to be crazy dog moms and crazy cat people, as we've
Crazy cat
learned.
ladies.
Yeah, and they kind of just grow. Like I've only seen more as time goes on, which I believe is a great indicator in the whole personalized pet jewelry space growing over time.
Hmm.
So I'm definitely excited for it. I'm excited to identify new ways that we can grow within the space. And yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what the future holds.
Very cool, my man. Well, I really appreciate all the insight that you brought to everyone here. It was a pleasure chatting with you. It's been great being friends the past few years and seeing how the brand's actually been developing and taking off. And it's been awesome watching your journey. One of the things that I always ask guests to do is I ask them to give kind of three different pieces of advice, or one different piece of advice to three different groups. The first group is people
Hmm.
that are looking to kind of start off their brand. Maybe they're just getting it in the development phase, or they're not at all. They're just thinking about starting it. And a piece of advice for them. Another piece of advice for someone that's has a proof of concept and they're looking to continue to scale their brand. They're at kind of like a mid range. And then another piece of advice for that person that hasn't really broken the seven figures a year or is really looking to push it to the next level.
Yeah, cool. So for anybody starting, biggest piece of advice is going to be to set your expectations straight. And I want to formulate my answer this way. When you are getting into the e-commerce dropshipping space, you are starting a business. And you need to treat this as a business and be fully aware that what's required of you is going to be a lot of trial and error. You're going to need to be able to embrace that error and that failure that you are going to find as you continue to dive into the space, and keep a
Mm-hmm.
student mindset throughout the entire journey. And this is applicable, I want to say, to all the other groups as well. You have to always keep a student mindset, always be willing to learn, identify people that are ahead of you, and put yourself in their shoes. What are they doing? How are they living? How is their day by day going? How do they formulate their habits to be able to achieve the success that they are able to achieve? And then go backwards from there, and don't be afraid to stumble along the way. Just pick yourself back up and keep moving forward. So that's kind of some advice that I would say for the starting. I mean, it applies to all of them. For somebody who has a proof of concept, I would say the biggest aspect you should focus on is content creation. There's too much chatter going around on switching products and this and that, but at the end of the day, if you have a product, if you have a solution that you can offer to people, and there's people to buy that solution, you want to identify how to better speak to those people. And you want
Mm-hmm.
to, I would recommend to go fully in on identifying and learning of who your customers truly are, and then creating content that's going to be speaking to those customers, and solely focusing on that until you get to have consistent revenue coming in. until you get to a couple $100,000 a month, right? And then you can have that as a machine, and then focus on more growth strategies from there, which can tie into kind of the last piece of advice. That's for people that are looking to get kind of to that next level. What I want to tie in there is you want to try new things. I think that's a good one. There's a bubble that we often face ourselves in e-commerce and as entrepreneurs, where we try to just kind of do the things that we know work, but we don't push the boundaries. And what's critical to getting to that next level is pushing those boundaries, both on a physical standpoint, putting yourself in tough situations every day to push the boundaries of yourself, of the entrepreneur that you want to become, and also doing that with your business, whether it's business decisions, future plans, however you're approaching it. Push boundaries, try to be the leader in your industry, and yeah, that's what I got.
That's awesome, my man. If people want to follow you, if they want to ask you questions, where's a good place to find you?
Yeah, I would say they can check out my Instagram. It's real Alex DJ. Also YouTube. I do create free YouTube content that is diving into what we do with Pup Ring. That's just my name, Alex Djordjevic. And yeah, I'd say those are the two best places to find me.
Awesome, my man. Well, really appreciate your time once again. I know it's super valuable, so I appreciate all the insight that you brought to everyone today, and hope to have you on again soon.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching again today. Once again, we're bringing Ecom founders to give you verified information on what's working for them right now, what's helping them scale right now. If you found any value in this, I hope to see you on the next episode. If there's anyone you would like me to interview, please let me know. I hope to continue to do this with you guys. Once again, many of you will watch, but very few of you will actually listen. Have a great day.